Simon is narrating the course of his life so far. He's actually a pretty lucky guy. His parents are madly in love and have been since high school. He gets on well with his sister, they have a good life with everything they could need. And he has two great friends he's known since kindergarten, Lee and Nick, and one more, Abby, that he met recently, but who feels like he's known her forever. He has a perfectly normal life, exactly like a high school kid should. Except, he has just one secret. He leans back in his chair, looking out of the window at the gardener in their driveway. He flexes his arms, and Simon can't keep his eyes off his prominent muscles. He's suddenly interrupted in his voyeurism by the appearance of his father, who assumes he's watching inappropriate videos, and jokes about it with him, which makes Simon feel awkward, not because he's embarrassed about being caught, but because his father naturally assumes he's looking at women. He sighs as his dad leaves, telling him to come downstairs once he's finished up, as his little sister has made them pancakes. Simon heads downstairs and enjoys some banter with his family. His mom teases him about having breakfast, and his sister is panicking about the consistency of the compote she's made. He grabs some food and heads out to his car, catching the eye of the gardener on his way out. He waves awkwardly and tries to make conversation, but the man can't hear him over the sound of a leaf blower, and he shakes his head in embarrassment and gets into his car, wondering what the hell he was thinking. He collects Nick, who begins immediately telling him about a crazy dream he had, and then Lee, who asks them if they've seen Creek Secrets, their high school forum in which anonymous gossip is posted. Apparently, according to the gossip chain, someone was caught getting intimate with someone else in the pool, and all three of them cringe as Simon keeps driving. They collect coffees from the drive-thru, Nick ensuring that the order for their fourth friend, Abby, is right. Simon and Lee exchange a knowing glance. Abby is the last stop, and Nick starts talking about his dream again as soon as she gets in the car. She laughs playfully, and together the four friends analyze Nick's dream. Abby suggests that perhaps it means he's not seeing something clearly, something that should be obvious. Simon begins to feel the conversation heading into dangerous territory and cranks up the radio. It's evident that his secret regarding his sexuality is playing heavily on his mind all the time. As they pull up to school, Ethan, a very effeminate gay kid, is being taunted by a gang of bullies. He snaps back at them confidently, but is clearly bothered by the harassment. Simon and the others park and walk past him awkwardly, feeling bad for not doing anything to help. Inside, the deputy principal is greeting everyone and taking people's phones at the entrance. It's against school rules to be using them in the building. Simon and Abby are chatting about the school play, which they're both starring in, when they're approached by another boy, Martin. He greets Abby enthusiastically and starts talking her ear off about the play, clearly trying to impress her. But Abby is aware he likes her and is completely not interested in speaking to him, so she quickly manages to make an exit. Simon likewise walks away, leaving Martin alone in the corridor. That night, Simon's family are having a traditional movie night. His mom suggests watching a movie that's inappropriate, and he and his sister protest that they can't watch a movie like that with their parents. Their mom laughs, calling them repressed, and their dad backs her up, then they high-five. They're both very intelligent and liberal people, who clearly have no hang-ups about anything their kids see or do, and Simon's embarrassed by how open they are. The topic moves on to one of the characters in a series they've been watching, and his dad jokes that he's sure the character is gay, using the term fruity. He doesn't mean it in a prejudicial way, but it makes Simon extremely uncomfortable to hear his dad pointing out traditionally homosexual traits, and he clams up throughout the movie. Later, his dad takes him into the office and asks him to help with the project he's been working on for his mom. It's their anniversary and he's prepared a slideshow with a backing track, documenting their lives together. Unfortunately, Simon feels the need to inform him it's absolutely terrible, as though a fourth grader made it, and he really needs some help if he's going to impress anyone with it. He gives him some suggestions on how he can improve it. Lee calls Simon that night while he's doing homework, and tells him that there's a new post on Creek Secrets. Someone has anonymously posted that they're gay. Simon hangs up on Lee, wanting to read the post alone because it's such a personal issue to him. The post is from someone called Blue, who posts a picture of a Ferris wheel, explaining how it feels that their life is a series of ups and downs, but they can't reveal to anyone their true self. Exhilarated that someone else feels the same as him, Simon decides to reply to the email address privately. He creates a burner account and sends Blue a message, narrating his life once again. He can't bring himself to say the actual words about his sexuality yet, but makes it obvious to Blue why he's writing to him. He signs off the email anonymously using the name Jack. The first thing he does in the morning is check his phone, desperate to see if Blue has replied. He hasn't, though. All day, Simon is nervous, looking at his emails every few minutes, completely distracted by the knowledge that there's another gay kid at school, and praying he'll receive a reply. At lunch, Simon can't concentrate on the conversation and leaves to find somewhere with a better signal. However, he's caught in the hall by the deputy principal who snatches his phone from him. Simon talks to him for a while, trying to play nice and see if he can get his phone back. But he tells him although he likes him, he won't be able to get it back until after the play practice later on. At the practice, the drama teacher is despairing. The play is not going well, everything's out of time, and everyone is feeling entirely demotivated. Simon is annoying Abby with his constant nervousness. As soon as it's over, he dashes to the vice principal's office to collect his phone, and the teacher tells him that he really sees himself in Simon, and that if there's anything he wants to tell him, then his door is open. Simon really doesn't feel that close to him, though, and all he wants to do is check his phone, so he cuts the conversation short and runs out to his car. As soon as he's safely in private, he pulls it out to find a reply from Blue. Blue asks him if he's told anyone about his secret. Simon waits until he's home to reply, and says that he hasn't said anything to anyone, and he doesn't know why. He knows his massively liberal parents would be absolutely fine with it, and although Ethan has a bit of hassle from the idiots, when he first came out nobody who mattered really even cared. He's just not ready to tell, for some reason. He tells Blue about his first girlfriend, from whom he ran away at the school dance, and the moment he knew he was into guys. He keeps deleting and retyping his sign-off, not sure how to end his email, and ends up going with just Jack. As he and Blue get closer, they talk about their lives to each other, opening up more and more. Simon begins to feel as though he's found a kindred spirit in Blue, someone who gets him, and is curious as to their true identity. He finds himself looking at people more closely at school, trying to find similarities between the kids around him and the things Blue has mentioned about himself. He's joking with him about who they're going to be for Halloween, and Blue says he loves the special orange Oreos that are only available during October. Simon replies to him on the school computer in the library between lessons, but then is interrupted by the vice principal checking up on how he's doing. And in his haste to leave the conversation, he forgets to sign out of the anonymous email address before leaving. Martin catches sight of him on his way out, then goes to use the same computer, and reads the entire secret email chain between them. At lunch that day, Nick's friend Bram from the football team approaches the table where Simon's chatting with his friends. He notices Simon eating Oreos and comments offhandedly that he loves the Halloween ones. Simon begins to get suspicious, wondering if Bram could be Blue. Bram goes on to invite them all to a Halloween party at his place that weekend. While everyone else is hyped about the party, Simon can't stop imagining Bram being Blue, putting Blue's words to his face in his mind. He's distracted in class, watching Bram absent-mindedly and remembering Blue's last message, which revealed he can't stop thinking about kissing him. Now Simon can't stop thinking about what it would be like if Bram was the one saying those words. He realizes that he's beginning to develop feelings for Blue without even knowing who he is. At the drama club, Simon and Abby are painting a set together when Simon heads off to get a soda. Martin sees his opportunity and follows him out. He explains that he knows about Simon's secret, and shows him photos he took of the emails. Simon's disgusted at Martin's behavior, calling him out for invading his privacy, but he's terrified of Martin revealing everything, outing him, and scaring Blue away. He's not ready to face the consequences of being publicly out, and he worries that Blue might stop talking to him if he discovers who he is. Martin asks for Simon's help getting to know Abby better so he can ask her out, and Simon reluctantly agrees, with the threat of blackmail hanging over his head. Simon advises Martin that he'll need to change his wardrobe and a lot of his habits if he's going to get Abby to like him, but it's a pretty hopeless affair. As a last-ditch option, he invites him to come to the Halloween party with them. Simon meets up with his friends before the party in a duo costume with Lee, who is feeling intimidated by Abby's revealing outfit. Martin arrives wearing a dress, and the vibe of the group is immediately killed by his presence. In the car on the way there, Nick and Abby are flirting, and Martin is getting frustrated by the fact that he obviously doesn't fit into their group dynamic. Simon is feeling increasingly bothered by him. At the party, Bram greets them, and Simon tries to act normally. He still thinks Bram must be Blue. Nick admits to Simon that he thinks Abby is gorgeous, and asks him what he thinks of her. Simon splutters, afraid Nick suspects that he doesn't like girls, but Nick's angle is totally different. He wants to ask her out. Panicking, knowing if Abby is with Nick then Martin will leak his secret, Simon invents an excuse involving a fake boyfriend to keep Nick away. His friend goes to drink away his sorrows, and Simon feels terrible, but doesn't think he has any other choice, at the threat of someone out to ruin his life. Bram calls him over and asks if he wants to play beer pong, and he enthusiastically agrees, hoping to turn the evening around and at some point ask Bram if he really is Blue. Simon suggests that Abby and Martin could be the other beer pong team, and despite Abby's initial protests, they actually end up having a lot of fun. They all get incredibly drunk, though, and by the end of the night, Simon is yelling into a karaoke machine, and trying to psych himself up to go and speak to Bram, to tell him he's the person with whom he's been communicating. However, he enters a bedroom and finds Bram making out with a girl. Embarrassed, he quickly leaves, sad that his suspicion was wrong, and confused about how he feels. Lee takes him home, and upon discovering his parents are still awake, he panics. But Lee isn't worried, knowing how relaxed his parents are. Sure enough, they aren't worried that he's drunk, and let the pair go into Simon's room. When he's sobered up a little, Lee admits to him that she feels like she's always on the outside of things, that she takes things too seriously, and can't let go like everyone else. There's someone she likes, and she can't get through to him. Simon tries to comfort his friend, not realizing that she's trying to tell him she has a crush on him, believing she means Nick instead. Disappointed, Lee goes to sleep, unsure if he's softly rejecting her or if he's just oblivious. Simon sends an email to Blue lamenting the situation he's in, talking about Lee's confession, and theorizing about why he's not come out to his friends yet. Drunk as he is, he ends the email with "Love, Jack," and then immediately realizes what he's done and freaks out. Has he taken things too far? At the drama club, they're all talking about Christmas plans, when Martin drags Simon out to talk to him. He threatens him again, and terrified, Simon suggests the three of them go to Waffle House to run lines after school. On the way, he receives an email from Blue telling him that their messages have inspired him, and he's planning on coming out to his family. He's going to tell his dad when he flies in for Hanukkah. He signs off with "Love, Blue," and Simon knows he has to do whatever it takes to keep this going, even if it means continuing to mess with his friends' lives. The waiter at the Waffle House is called Lyle, and he also goes to their school. He's nice to Simon, unusually so, and Simon begins to suspect from the way he talks that he might be Blue. Abby and Martin bond a little more over Abby's past. She explains why she moved to Creekwood, how her father abandoned her and her mother. Martin successfully manages to comfort her. Simon, though, is still distracted by Lyle, and follows him outside when he goes on his break. He makes small talk with him while he's on his phone. Lyle heads back inside, putting his phone away. At that exact moment, Simon gets an email from Blue, cementing his suspicion. Simon drives Abby home, and she admits to him that Martin isn't actually bothering her as much as he used to. She doesn't like talking about her past, because it reminds her of how much her father ruined their lives, but Martin made her feel a bit better. Simon pulls over when Abby asks if he's ever been in love, and inspired by Blue, he feels that he can't hold it in anymore. He blurts out that he's gay. She smiles, reassuring him, and he takes a big breath and continues driving. He's finally said the words, and it feels like a huge release. He tells Blue about his success and suggests they meet in real life to be brave and come out together, signing off once again with "Love, Jack." However, Blue still doesn't feel ready, and Simon's left frustrated. Nick decides he's just going to tell Abby how he feels. Boyfriend be damned. But Simon convinces him that Abby likes Martin. Thinking he's doing Lee a favor, he asks Nick to think about dating her instead, because she's in love with him. Nick believes him, and asks Lee out. Lee tells Simon, hoping he'll tell her not to go, but he's happy for her, thinking his two best friends are finally getting together. Confused, but realizing Simon really has no idea she likes him, Lee agrees to give it a try and go on the date, despite her strong feelings. At the homecoming football game later, Abby is joking about with Simon, laughing about how tight the footballer's pants are. Simon spots Lyle and goes to talk to him, still thinking he might be Blue, but Lyle is only interested in Abby, dashing Simon's hopes. He walks off, sad and once again clueless as to his real identity. Martin approaches and asks for advice, but too annoyed to deal with him. Simon waves him off and accidentally gives him terrible advice, sick of messing with his friends' lives and wanting Martin to leave him alone. Martin runs onto the pitch before the game starts, taking the mic from the singer and confessing to her in front of everyone in the stadium. He shoots his shot, asking her out, but Abby rejects him. She does it as kindly as possible, letting him down gently, but she's really embarrassed, and Martin storms off. Nick questions Simon, asking why she said no if she likes him, and begins to feel some hope again. In the aftermath, Martin's picture is plastered all over Creek Secrets, and everyone in the school is making fun of him. Worried, and feeling bad because he gave him poor advice, Simon calls and leaves a few voicemails, but he can't get in touch with him. He receives another email from Blue just before the Christmas holidays, letting him know he'll be off the grid for a couple of weeks as he's going out to his dad's cabin. Simon recalls one of the drama students mentioning the same thing when they all discussed plans before, and has a new idea regarding who Blue might be. He responds by sending him a playlist of his favorite Christmas songs, and signs off feeling excited that he might finally have figured it out. He imagines kissing Blue under the mistletoe. Unfortunately, though, Martin goes through with his threat. During the holidays, he can't take any more ridicule for his big stunt on Creek Secrets, so he uploads Simon's emails to distract everyone, outing him to the whole school. Lee calls, but Simon doesn't talk to her, and his sister, who also goes to the school, comes in to ask him about it, not knowing what to say. Panicking, Simon emails Blue, knowing he won't see it for a while but needing him to understand what happened and hoping that he won't disappear on him. He doesn't think he can bear losing him as a support, right now after having been forced out of the closet. On Christmas Day, he knows he can't hold it back from his parents anymore, and tells them over presents. They take it very well, although his dad makes some inappropriate jokes, and Simon feels a little better. However, he doesn't talk to any of his friends over Christmas because he can't face knowing that they all know about it, and he emails Blue again, begging him to reply as soon as he gets back, because he needs to know he still has a safe space, someone he can talk to who understands him. On the first day back to school, Simon pulls up outside Nick's to find his three friends hanging out on the corner. Nick explains that he and Abby finally got together, and they've discovered that Simon's been messing with them all. Simon, desperate, tries to explain himself, but Nick storms off in a rage, and Abby is disappointed that he lied to her and tried to pawn her off onto Martin just to keep himself safe. He pleads with Lee, who tearfully tells him that it was always him, all along, and he was too blind to see it. She could deal with him not feeling the same way. But he set her up with Nick despite knowing Nick was into Abby, and if he really believed that Lee felt that way about Nick, he shouldn't have done that. She walks off with the others, and Simon is alone and friendless. At lunch, two of the bullies come into the lunch hall dressed up as Ethan and Simon, and pretend to make out and get intimate on top of one of the tables. Angry, Simon stands up, ready to defend himself, but the drama teacher comes in and diffuses the situation, ordering them off. Ethan and Simon are brought to the vice principal's office to discuss how they feel, and while they're waiting, Ethan tells Simon about his own experience with his difficult family, and says that if he needs to talk, he's there for him, even though they're not really friends. As Simon goes to his car, Martin comes up to him trying to apologize, realizing what a monumental mistake he made, but Simon yells at him, humiliated and furious, that he should have been the one to decide who he told, and when, but Martin took that away from him. When he gets home after the worst possible day, Blue has sent him a message saying he can't talk to him anymore, because it's all become too real, and when Simon desperately replies, it turns out Blue has deleted the burner email he was using. Simon is truly all alone. He decides to follow the one slim trail he has left, and asks the boy from the drama club if he's Blue. But the answer is no, and although he's kind about it and asks if Simon wants to talk, Simon feels lost, knowing his one last clue has gone cold. At home, he speaks to his mom, and she says that she knew for a long time he had a secret but she didn't want to pry about it, and she feels terrible because she doesn't know if she made a mistake by not trying to support him sooner. Her eyes fill up with tears as she reassures him that now he finally gets to exhale. He gets to be himself, more so than he has been in a long time. Simon is comforted by her words and decides that he needs to try and take some steps to repair his damaged relationships. He starts with Lee, catching her as she walks her dog. He explains that the real reason he didn't tell anyone is because he fell in love with Blue, and he knew that if Martin leaked the emails, he would scare him away. He needed things to stay the same, which is why he couldn't tell her or Nick about it. He wasn't ready for everything to change between them, and to lose the guy he'd fallen in love with before he even got to know who he was. Lee is sympathetic, and although she's still upset with what Simon did, she's ready to forgive him. When Simon returns, his dad is taking down the Christmas lights. He asks Simon how long he's known for, and berates himself that for the whole time he didn't notice, he didn't realize how his stupid jokes were making his son feel. He reassures him that he loves him, and he would never change anything about him. Simon doesn't know what to say, never having seen his dad like this, and changes the topic to the presentation his dad is making for his mother, offering to continue helping him finish it off. It turns out brilliantly, and the family sit down together, a unit once again, and happily watch the memories of their past. His confidence boosted, Simon decides it's time. He makes a post on Creek Secrets, an open letter to the entire school, in his own name. He reclaims his coming out message, explaining who he is and why he was hiding himself. He apologizes to everyone he hurt, saying he made some terrible mistakes but he's owning up to them and trying to do better. Then, he expresses his love for Blue, saying that although he might not know what Blue looks like or what his name is, he knows who he is inside. He is just like him, someone afraid to reach out, embrace who he is, and seize his own happiness. He promises Blue that he deserves a great love story too, and that he will be waiting for him that Friday, at the fair they're putting on after the play, harkening back to Blue's original post about feeling like he's on a Ferris wheel. He signs it off with, "Love, Simon." Then he leans back and exhales in relief and anticipation. Miraculously, the play manages to go off without a hitch despite their terrible rehearsals. Backstage, Lee and Nick come to congratulate Abby on the performance, and then all three approach Simon together, asking if he wants to go to the carnival with them. They, too, are ready to forgive him after reading his heartfelt apology. The group walks up to the Ferris wheel, and Simon hands a roll of tickets to the operator, getting in alone and waiting to see if Blue will show up. A crowd begins to gather, filming him on their phones and cheering him on. Everyone is watching in anticipation, hoping that Blue will show up for him. He rides for a long time, but it looks like he's going to be stood up after all. Blue didn't have the courage to join him. Abby puts her head on Lee's shoulder, and the expectant crowd are watching in increasing despair. Simon's last ride comes to an end, and he's about to get off when Martin rushes up, claiming he's Blue and professing his love for him. Simon knows it's not true, and Martin admits that he was lying, but he just couldn't face Simon sitting there all alone, and wanted to help him save face. He hands another ticket to the operator, enough for one last ride, and wishes Simon good luck as he steps back. As the ride operator is about to set it going again, Bram suddenly rushes up, asking if he can sit down. Simon's nonplussed, having already ruled him out as a possibility, but he takes a seat and sheepishly explains that the night at the party, he was confused and drunk, and he and the girl never ended up doing anything. He was Blue all along. Until that moment, he didn't think he'd have it in him to step up and admit it, but he found himself walking towards the Ferris wheel, and somehow he just found the courage. Simon grins, amazed to have finally found out the identity of the man he loves. The Ferris wheel starts up, to the cheers of the assembled onlookers, and Bram asks nervously whether Simon's disappointed. Simon looks at him, shakes his head, and pulls him in for a kiss. Everyone screams in delight as they kiss softly, happy for them to have the love story they both deserve. It seems that Simon's bravery inspired a whole new wave of confessions. Everyone is posting on Creek Secrets, outing their deepest and most hidden fears, with the hashtag, Thanks Simon. He heads downstairs, bantering with his family, grabbing breakfast on his way out, and gets into his car. Nick gets in and starts telling him about his dream, then Lee gets in, and this time, they collect 5 coffees from the shop. Abby jumps in next to Nick, then they stop at Bram's, and he gets in next to Simon, greeting him with a kiss, before they head off to school. It turns out that in the end, nothing that matters has to change.